Welcome to the Autism ADHD podcast. It's the place to be for neurodiversity-affirming parents and professionals. I'm your host, Holly Blanc-Moses, the mom neurodivergent therapist. Here we chat about emotional regulation, mental health, social support, executive functioning, learning, and more, all aimed at empowering us to support kids and teens with compassion and understanding. I'm thrilled that you joined me today, and I've got some pretty exciting news to share with you. For those rock star therapists listening right now, I've created continuing education training that is tailor-made for you. Take a deep dive into cutting-edge strategies that you can start using today. The CEs you've wanted for so long are finally here. Go to hollyblancmoses.com/CE training and sign up. You are going to love it. The link is also available in the show notes. Now, if you are a parent or educator listening and you know a therapist or a psychologist that is passionate about supporting kids and teens, I greatly appreciate it if you could pass on this great news. Thanks so much again for your support, and let's get started. Welcome, everyone, back to the Autism ADHD podcast. I'm your host, Holly Blanc-Moses. Today, we are going to chat about a topic that can change everything. Let's paint a picture here. Maybe it's the child that you care for. Maybe it's your child. Maybe it's one of your clients or students. But this neurodivergent kid, they are full of anxiety and what ifs. You just may not know what they're anxious about. And I want you to think about this for a second, because their anxiety is completely understandable. These kids are often misunderstood. They're confused about why people seem mad at them all the time. They're scared that they're going to say something wrong again. They've experienced social rejection, and it hurts. It really hurts. When they're faced with activities or interactions that could be difficult, it makes sense that they would be hesitant or they would want to avoid it. Imagine this time you are a neurodivergent kid and you're invited to a birthday party. Most people think of birthday parties as just fun. Here's what's in your mind. What if I get teased like I did before? What if that one classmate is there who's really mean to me? What if they call me weird again? What if no one talks to me at the party? What if the party's boring? What if it lasts too long? What if it's too loud? The what ifs just pile up, and suddenly it feels so much safer to just not go. And it's not just social situations. Imagine you're staring at a paper full of math problems and you really struggle with math. It feels impossible. You see all the other kids around you just diving in and starting to work, but you're frozen with fear because you don't know how to do the problems. And you can't stop thinking about, what happens if I fail this math quiz like I did last time? My parents are going to be so mad at me. And they told me if I get another bad grade, I'm going to lose screen time. And it's the only thing that I feel like I'm good at, is playing my favorite video games. You raise your hand for help. But then a peer laughs at you, calls you stupid under their breath. The next day when that student isn't there, you ask the teacher again, but she explains it the exact same way she did the first time, and you didn't understand it then either, and you still don't understand it. She tries to encourage you by saying, I know you can do it. But here's the thing, you don't know how to do it. And now you feel even more stuck and alone than before. Here's an example of an everyday challenge: taking the garbage out. Your parent asks you to take out the garbage, and suddenly you are filled with overwhelm. And your thoughts are racing. What if the bag breaks and the garbage spills everywhere like last time? It feels so gross when I have to pick it up. It just feels terrible. And what if the neighbor is outside and then they try to make small talk and I don't know what to say? What if I forget which bins go where? I've done that before and I got in trouble for it. What the parent thinks of as a simple task feels massive and impossible for you. Where do you even start? Just like cleaning your room, you look around and it's like climbing Mount Everest. Where do you start? Do you pick up the clothes first? Maybe the books? What about all the papers? And what if you put things in the wrong place? What if you don't do a good enough job? Like last time, where you were really proud of yourself and you thought you did so well, but your parent came in and told you all the things that you didn't do well, and your confidence is crushed. I remember feeling so proud of myself because I cleaned off one of my dressers, and that was just, dressers are the bane of my existence. I actually do not have dressers anymore. I'll have to talk about that in another episode, because the tops of them were so difficult to deal with. And also keeping the clothes neatly folded in them was so hard for me. I was so excited. I asked a parent to come look at the top of the dresser because I was so happy. I was smiling. I put so much effort into it. And what my parent said was, that looks okay, but what about the rest of it? This is a mess. I was just crushed. What about writing assignments at school? This can be brutal for neurodivergent kids. You're sitting there with a blank piece of paper in front of you and your mind is racing. My handwriting is so messy. I got points off for it before. Kids have made comments about my messy handwriting. I don't even know what to write. I don't know how to start. How am I supposed to even start this paragraph? What does the teacher actually want? What if I write the wrong thing like I've done before? What if everyone finishes before me like always? I'll be so embarrassed. Many situations feel impossible, and that's why they try to avoid them. Now, here is where I really want to dig in. Many of us, and I am including myself in this, have used the word refused to describe this type of avoidance. I cannot stand that word. I really cannot stand it. We blame our kids, our clients, our students for not trying. We blame them for refusing. We blame them for being difficult or trying to give us a hard time. We call them names like selfish, disrespectful, rude, and lazy. And here's something that many parents and professionals think: this child is taking more time to avoid this task than it would take just to do what I asked. I know I've thought that. Or they're using up way more energy having a meltdown than it would take to just do what I said. Here is the truth. If it was doable, they would do it. I'm going to say that again because it is so important. It's something that I have to remind myself of too. If it was doable, they would do it. They don't want to be yelled at. They don't want to be shamed. They don't want to feel bad again and again. They want to feel capable. If they're avoiding something, there is a reason. There is always a reason. Sometimes there are multiple reasons. Here is something that I think of first, usually, when I think of why kids may be avoiding. They may already be completely drained. Believe me when I say that neurodivergent kids use much more of their energy to get through the tasks than neurotypical kids do. They use more of their brain power, their physical energy, their emotional energy just to get through that school day. That's another reason why they usually have more meltdowns when they're at home, because they are absolutely drained. So let's think about this. Imagine a neurodivergent middle schooler who is completely drained from school. They're drained from having to use their energy just to keep themselves in their seat, to not call out, to tune out challenging sensory input, to get through difficult social interactions. And none of the things that I just mentioned have to do with schoolwork, because that's a whole other drain. And this piles up. So a kid can be overwhelmed by so many things that you don't see, that you don't know about. And this is often due to their social communication differences. It is harder for them to explain to parents, therapists, and teachers why they are struggling and why something feels like it's not doable. All because they're not telling us doesn't mean it's not there. Like I mentioned earlier, it can be a combination of things. I think of it as stacking blocks, different size blocks. Some blocks are bigger than others, some are heavier than others, some are more awkward to hold. Imagine that child holding up a block on top of their head with both hands, and it represents each stressor. So let's say the first block is exhaustion. If you've ever felt truly exhausted, you know that it's overwhelming in itself. It makes everything harder. It's harder to think, it's harder to function. Problem solving becomes more difficult. Attending is more difficult. Again, let's say that first big block they are holding up above their head is exhaustion. A lot of the kids that I work with, I know my own kids, they struggle with sleep. Now, there's a second block on top of the exhaustion, and it's even heavier. It's that social communication. Basically, their ability to communicate a need to another person or explain something. Now, I want you to stop what you're doing just for a second and just come and be present with me in this moment. Has a child or teen ever told you that something is too hard, too much? It will take forever. It's too boring. And you told them to do it anyway, and they melted down. You may have thought to yourself, they need to learn to do things even when they don't want to. You may have even said to them, I have to do boring things when I don't feel like it. That's life. Or it won't take forever. Stop being so dramatic. It takes so much effort for them to communicate what they think. And then we ignore their attempts. We ignore them. We brush it aside. We act like it is irritating to us. No wonder they think no one listens to them. No wonder they think what they say doesn't matter and that no one understands. If you want a neurodivergent kid to stop communicating with you, the best way is to ignore their communication attempts, because this is what usually happens. They don't even try anymore because, again, why bother? So we have these blocks, exhaustion, and on top of that, communication struggles. But wait, there's more, because they may be hungry, but they don't recognize it in their body. Then there's another block, the environment is too loud. Another block, their stomach hurts. Another block, a peer teased them today. Another block, they're worried about that test tomorrow. Another block, then you ask them to clean their room and they fall apart because this huge tower of invisible stressors just stacked on them. And you feel like it comes out of nowhere, but it doesn't. And then what do? We yell at them. We shame them. We tell them they're being dramatic or difficult. I know that you want to do everything you can to support the neurodivergent kids in your life. That's why you're here. I am not perfect. I tell everyone that all the time. I make these mistakes too. But all of us can work on doing better. The first thing is to look at this differently. What if we thought about the why behind the avoidance, the why behind the meltdowns? After we recognize the reason for their avoidance and accept that it actually is hard in that moment, then we can move forward. We cannot move forward until that happens. You cannot be supportive if you're yelling at them. You cannot be understanding if you're blaming them. You can't be a safe person for them if you're assuming they're just giving you a hard time. So how do we help them move forward? We accept and believe what they're saying. It's magical. We collaborate with them about what is doable. I'll give you some examples. Let's go back to the garbage, for instance. Instead of just saying, take out the garbage, you can ask them which part feels more doable for them. Would you like to carry the garbage bag out to the can, or would you like to put the garbage in the can while I open the top? You're giving them agency, you're giving them more autonomy. You're breaking it down in manageable pieces, and you're collaborating with them. Maybe cleaning the room becomes doable if we walk into their room together with them. We're only going to clean up one thing today, one thing, and I'm going to help you the whole time. You are not alone in this. Should we put the Legos in the bin, or should we put the clothes in the hamper? This information is gold when it comes to teaching skills, and it makes the impossible possible. Maybe that writing assignment becomes doable if they can type instead of handwrite, or if they can start with just writing 3 sentences instead of a full paragraph, or if they can talk through their ideas with someone before writing them down, or they're given a sample of what you're looking for to refer to. That is what makes the difference. Now, there's also another part of being doable, and that is making time doable. This is another game changer. If you don't show time visually, a neurodivergent child is automatically going to think it will never end. It will take forever. They will die before it's done. That is often why you see these big reactions, these big emotions. Of course, if it felt like you would spend the rest of your life cleaning your room, you would also have a meltdown. It makes sense. We have to make time doable. That includes them being able to see the time. This is where visual timers like the time timer become incredibly helpful. I have a ton of them. When you say 2 minutes and show them, they can refer back to the timer and see that it's not forever. It makes time concrete. They can see that it's actually 2 minutes. It has an end. And that visual representation makes that task so much more doable. I want you to start small. Depending on the amount of blocks and stressors they already are carrying, the time of day, what you are asking them to do, their learning differences, different amounts of time can feel doable. That's why it's important to start small, even if it's 30 seconds. And you may be thinking, okay, Holly, that's not realistic. I hear you. But let's look at it like this. I don't know about you, but I would rather start at 30 seconds, praise a child for doing the thing, have them feel a sense of accomplishment, and me do the rest, than have them have a meltdown. By the way, which can last a lot longer than 30 seconds, as you probably already know. Not only will they maybe have a meltdown and avoid the task that feels like forever, they're also going to feel like no one will listen to me when I tell them this is too hard or too long. They're trying to communicate that something is hard. They're anxious, they're sad, they're overwhelmed, and that just leads to more task avoidance in the future. Again, it's not all about the 30 seconds. This is just an example, but a successful 30 seconds is gold. A successful 30 seconds can turn into a successful minute. And then that just goes up from there, because you can have 30 seconds of awesome to start with, or a meltdown in a kid that's mental health is being crushed. Now, if you're worried that a child, student, or client will only want to stay at 30 seconds, I hear you. There are a lot of great strategies to use to keep moving forward, like using the free spin app on your phone and entering different amounts of time around that 30 seconds, for instance, 20 seconds, 1 minute, 10 seconds, 1 minute, 30 seconds. You can ask them to roll the dice. Lots of great ideas to keep it engaging and gradually building that time. That also builds their confidence in doing other things too. It builds your connection with them, and it supports their mental health. You can also use time to make things more doable, like cleaning up. The parent asks the child, would you like me to help you clean up your room for 2 minutes or 4 minutes? Again, you want to start small. They are more likely to clean up if they know that it won't be forever, that you're helping them, which makes it even more doable. Say they pick 2 minutes instead of 4. That's probably pretty likely, which is fine. That's just good information on what they think is more doable in this moment. Don't think of it as, oh, they're trying to get out of it. No, they are giving you valuable information. Then you can say, okay, we've got 2 minutes before I start the timer. Would you rather we put the toys in the box or put the garbage in the garbage bag? Which one feels more doable to you? So let's dig into more communication, because this is such an important part. Again, neurodivergent kids struggle much more with communicating. If they tell you one need or thought, it's probably only one of the blocks that are piled up. Making communication more doable is just key for them. Even though a child or teen may have a large vocabulary, that doesn't mean communication is easy for them. When clients come in and want evaluations from us at my practice, social communication is something we look at. We can understand the differences between their scoring high verbally, but they have a hard time explaining what's hard for them or how they feel. I worked with a client a while back who had a very high verbal score, probably knows more words than I do. Actually, I'm sure she probably does. But when we're working on how to make communication more doable, I asked her to explain to me how it is difficult in the process, what it is like to communicate for her. And she said, first, she has to process what the person is asking her to do or telling her. Then she has to translate their words into words that actually make sense to her. Then she has to think about how she can answer their question with the information that they may be wanting, because sometimes we're guessing because we're not very clear in our own communication. And then she has to translate the words back again by thinking of words to use to say to this person that they are likely to understand. It's exhausting. Let's talk about how we can make communication more doable, because we are not going to minimize someone's experience. We're going to start listening to them when they tell us something's hard, I can't do it. We're not going to argue about it. We're not going to dismiss their communication anymore. In my office, I have a lot of dry erase boards. I've talked about this before in other episodes. We have them in each of our 3 offices in the clinic, large ones, small ones, all sizes. And the reason for this is that we know it's important to make communication as doable as possible. One of the ways we do this is to have options. A client might feel more comfortable writing out a thought or a feeling. They may feel safer pointing to a list of options. They may want to circle from a list of a few options. They may want to give a thumbs up or thumbs down. Maybe that's more doable. They may want to point to an option. Whatever it takes to make communication more doable, we need to do it. I'll give you an example. While working with a child who shuts down at school, I wrote down a list of his subjects and asked him to circle the one that's most difficult. And he circled ELA. Then I wrote out a starter sentence. Something that is really hard about ELA is, and then I wrote down several possible responses, just that I guessed from knowing this person. He circled, I don't know what to write. He also circled, I forgot the instructions, and also circled, it takes me too long. And the last one he circled was, I get embarrassed because everyone else is done before me. What's beautiful about making communication more doable is it helps guide us to provide better recommendations, better accommodations, ones that actually work. So for our therapists who are listening, I use the time timer to ask how long a child can talk about a particular subject, or even have me talk about something. Because talking about difficult topics can be really stressful, especially when social communication is already hard. So I have lots of different things that I do depending on the individual needs of the client. But the one I'm thinking about right now is, let's go back to ELA for a minute. Is it more doable to talk about ELA for 3 minutes or 5 minutes? And then they answer, it's usually 3 minutes, which is fine. And then I put on the timer. That gives them that visual boundary and makes conversation feel manageable. So they'll know that this isn't a topic we have to stay on for a really long time, which makes it more doable. And here's why the doable approach is so powerful. When we make things doable, it helps kids feel safe and heard. And when they feel safe and heard, they're more likely to tell you what they need. They're more likely to tell you what's hard for them. They can learn to trust you, that you will not just dismiss them like other people. When we consistently use the doable approach, something beautiful happens. Kids start to trust that we're listening to them. They start believing that their voice matters, that they just won't be ignored. They begin to share more about what's hard for them because they know we won't just dismiss them or tell them just to push through it. Try harder, quit complaining. Making things doable helps decrease meltdowns. It helps their mental health. It helps with our connection with them. It helps decrease anxiety. It helps us identify accommodations. Another beautiful thing about this approach is that it honors where the child is right now while still moving forward. We're not lowering expectations here. If something doesn't feel possible, we can help think of ways to make it more doable. And you know what happens when something becomes doable? Kids actually do it. They experience success. They build their confidence, and over time, their capacity grows. This isn't about making things easier forever. It's about meeting a child where they are and helping them with self-awareness and seeing those stacked blocks. It's about showing them that we're on their team. We're not working against them. The doable approach makes the impossible possible. So the next time you're faced with a situation where a neurodivergent kid is avoiding something, I challenge you to pause and ask yourself, what blocks might they already be carrying? What would make this doable for them? How can I make time visual and manageable? And then collaborate on finding that sweet spot where the challenge meets their capability in that moment. When we work with kids instead of against them, we honor their experience and amazing things happen. They start to trust themselves and they start to believe that maybe, just maybe, they can handle one more thing than they thought they could. Thank you so much for listening today. Send me a message about how you're implementing the doable approach with the kids in your life. Remember, we're all just trying to figure this out one doable step at a time. I'll see you next time. Take care. If you found this podcast helpful, I greatly appreciate it if you could take a second to give it a 5-star review. With your positive feedback, I can continue bringing you free, valuable information. As an extra thanks to you for sticking around to the end, there are special gifts waiting for you in the show notes. You'll find links to free resources on supporting neurodivergent kids and teens with social interaction, emotional regulation, and more. So come on down to the show notes and get your free resources. Take care, and I look forward to seeing you next time.
All content provided is protected under applicable copyright, patent, trademark, and other proprietary rights. All content is provided for informational and educational purposes only. No content is intended to be a substitute for professional medical or psychological diagnosis, advice, or treatment. Information provided does not create an agreement for service between Holly Blanc Moses Crossvine Clinical Group, the interviewee, Holly Blanc Moses LLC, and the recipient. Consult your physician regarding the applicability of any opinions or recommendations with respect to your symptoms or medical condition or the symptoms or medical condition of your family member. Children or adults who show signs of dangerous behavior toward themselves and/or others should be placed immediately under the care of a qualified professional.